Good evening. Thanks for joining us for Peyton Manning Road to the Super Bowl. I'm Russell Bivin. Over the next hour, we'll be joined by our 10 sports team, director Nick Carboni, and reporters Courtney Lyle, Chris Budden, and Patrick Murray. We'll look back at some of the incredible milestones and moments of Manning's career, from the Smoky Mountains to the Rocky Mountains. We're also going to hear from his former coaches, teammates, and those who covered Manning over the years. Should be a great hour. But first, Manning's accomplishments on the field have not only packed his home with dozens of awards and accolades, but loaded his bank accounts with millions of dollars, both from the NFL and numerous endorsements. Manning, who no doubt sees lots of green these days, started his ascent to fame in orange and white. Here's Chris Budden.
His All-American looks, personality, and a bloodline that reads like a Triple Crown thoroughbred made Peyton Manning easy to like when he came to Tennessee. His winning ways made him even easier to love.
That's why I wanted to play. I wanted to get this hat. I'm a big hat wearer.
He broke passing records as a volunteer that, to this day, seem marked with a forever stamp. Manning shined even brighter on the NFL stage as an Indianapolis Colt.
The Indianapolis Colts select quarterback, University of Tennessee, Peyton Manning.
He won league MVP 3 times. And after criticism that he couldn't win the big one, number 18 not only led the Colts to a Super Bowl championship, he was named the MVP.
Well, no, I mean, like I said, I'm proud to have been the quarterback of this Super Bowl champion team.
Manning would lead Indianapolis to another Super Bowl, but lost to New Orleans. That was tough, but not nearly as tough as what was to come.
I'm on track with what the doctors have told me to do. I'm doing that.
A possible career-ending neck injury was enough for Indianapolis to let him go.
Nobody's had it better, than I have playing for the Indianapolis Colts for these 14 years. And I can't say how thankful and how fortunate I feel to have played here.
This Colt would now run as a Bronco.
Man rush, Peyton bounces around, throws, the ball will be caught.
They do have incredible fans that love this team. And this truly is a special football environment, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
And Peyton, now cleared to play, provided an extra jolt of horsepower.
Denver touchdown. Montana, 5-man.
In his second season in Denver, Manning has the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Peyton throws, and it's a touchdown.
A victory would give more evidence to those who say that Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
Have a lot of guests joining us this hour, and right now we're joined by former WBIR sports director and current voice of the Vols, Bob Kessling, who covered Manning for many years. Good to see you, Bob. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Special hour for us, so we really appreciate it. Peyton's dad, of course, Archie at Ole Miss, tremendous player. Peyton, a hugely popular recruit. What was the atmosphere like when Peyton actually committed to Tennessee?
Well, I think most people felt that he was going to go to Ole Miss, and he's going to follow his dad and those type things. And suddenly they had the announcement down at the Superdome, and he's coming to Tennessee, and I think everybody was euphoric. And I think that Coach Fulmer and David Cutcliffe did a great job recruiting him. I think he liked the system. One of the reasons he didn't go to Ole Miss is because they were heading to probation, it looked like. So he came to Tennessee, and Peyton was an unbelievable student of the SEC. I mean, he knew all the coaches, he knew all the teams, he knew the history, and a lot of that's because of his dad. But he wanted to stay in the SEC, and he thought that Tennessee was the program that fit him the best. But there was a lot of euphoria when he decided to come to Tennessee.
Yeah, and you talked about the fact he was a historian of the SEC. He loved and really relished beating Alabama, right? I mean, he knew that rivalry and the history there.
Oh, yeah, and that was the game for him, beating Alabama, the tradition with Bear Bryant and Johnny Majors and General Nealon and all of that. So he played some of his best games against Alabama. I think everybody remembers play number 1 to Joey Kent, 80 yards at Legion Field, so that was terrific. So, yeah, I think everybody understood. The thing about Peyton, when he came in, people forget this, they recruited Brandon Stewart, who was also an outstanding quarterback. Right. Tennessee already had Jerry Colquitt on as a quarterback. He's a 5th-year senior.
Yeah.
So most people just figured that Colquitt would be the starting quarterback. Peyton would learn under him, and then in spring practice the following year, it would be Peyton and Brandon Stewart battling it out to be the starting quarterback. Well, Peyton's not wired that way. So when Peyton got here in the summer, he learned the playbook. He learned the cadence he got with the offensive lineman. He was acting as if he was going to be the starting quarterback, knowing full well that it was Jerry Colquitt's team. Right. But when Colquitt went down, Peyton was the obvious choice to be the starting quarterback. So he came in thinking from day one, I'm going to beat out Jerry Colquitt, knowing that it probably wouldn't happen. But that's just the way he went about it.
Yeah. Was he fun to cover?
Oh, he was a blast. He was so prepared, so into it. He doesn't get enough credit for his sense of humor. You see it every once in a while, but when you covered him, you saw it on a daily basis, and he was a lot of fun. You know, and I think the one thing about Peyton too that people don't give him enough credit for is that this thing isn't just an overnight deal. This was a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I remember when, I guess it was going into the '97 season, they'd said, we need to get some of the bigger name players on the team, give them some media training. So we said, yeah. And so we got some of the guys like Deion Grant and Al Wilson, and we got them in a room. And there's like 10 of them. It was in spring practice. And we did fake interviews with them and played it back and let them see it. So they got to the time to let Peyton do his. And I said, well, Peyton, you've done all these interviews. You don't need to do these interviews. And he said, why don't you talk to the guys about being a team leader? Why don't you talk to them about what you have to do, win or lose, and how you're supposed to represent the university and your family? And he talked to them, and of course they were all listening to Peyton because, you know, anytime Peyton spoke, people listened. And so when we were done with Peyton with his little speech, I said, okay, you guys are dismissed. Well, the 9 guys hit the door, going to the swimming pool or the golf course because it was day off. Peyton stayed. And he said, why didn't you interview me? I said, well, you've already done it. I said, no, I want to practice. So I did another fake interview with him. We stayed there for an hour.
You're kidding.
Letting him go, and he went over every single sentence. How could I have answered that better? I was looking at the camera. So this guy's been wired like this for a long time. This hasn't been something just overnight.
Amazing. One of the things that, you know, I know still kind of gets him to this day are the Florida games.
Yeah. And, you know, Peyton gets a lot of a lot of the blame for those games. But you go back, and Tennessee's offense, you know, scored 39 in one of the games,
business, right? Yeah.
27, I think, in another.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the offensive problems. I mean, Peyton put up big numbers, but that is one of those things that people hold against him, that he never did beat Florida. He did win an SEC championship, which is something Johnny Manziel didn't do. So let's give Peyton some credit.
Yeah, MVP in that. How much of his success do you think goes to Coach Fulmer and Coach Cutcliffe?
A lot. I think that they gave him a lot of confidence, and I think. You know that's true because Peyton and Coach Cutcliffe still, and Coach Fulmer as well, still have a great relationship. So when Peyton's trying to come back from his injury, who does he turn to? He goes to Coach Cutcliffe over at Duke. So both of those played a big role in his development. So it's just it's a great success story. Yeah,
going to be fun to watch Sunday. Thanks for taking time. We know you got busy things going for sure.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks.
All right, we're going to have more Peyton Manning road to the Super Bowl after this. But first, one of the many Manning facts we're going to show you throughout the show. We'll be right back.
Dominance, feeling the Gator Chomp, and a Heisman heist. Coming up, we revisit the Peyton years and sit down with the man who helped start his incredible career.